That's right. Welcome back to the Puck Drop Podcast. I'm Cole, the NHL Music Man Chapman, and I'm here with Lieutenant Dangle D, Destin Edgington. And we are brought to you by Hockey Stops. Don't forget that. One-stop shop up in Ogden and Logan. And obviously, all of our awesome new sponsors for the 2025 year. Beer Bar, shout out. That is where we do our watch parties. Utah Brewery up in Ogden. And of course, Five Wise Vodka. Can't forget that. They're going to be the reason everybody Ubers home at our watch parties.
Keep an eye out on Ed.
And Destin, who do we have with us today?
So we've got Ben Housey. He is the Colorado Avalanche EBUG.
Colorado Avalanche EBUG.
Thanks for having me on, boys.
So many Absolutely. Questions. We kind of lucked out. He's up here in Utah for business. Obviously, you house in Denver, and yeah, I've got a lot of questions on on being an EBUG for an NHL team.
Absolutely. What is it? So, how many times have you been called up?
Yeah.
So, the history of it is relatively long. I've been doing it. This is my 8th year, 7th season, and I say that because COVID obviously got a little wonky. We didn't go to the bubble. The roster limitations and restrictions were different then. And then the year after, that would have been the 2021 season, again, because most AHL seasons or teams had either weren't playing or had different roster limitations. They didn't have us that year. So then the cup year, when the Avs won the cup in 21-22, was kind of our first year back from, I'll call it a COVID break.
Okay.
I have dressed now five different times for 4 different teams, which has been pretty exciting in and of itself.
So you're hitting the AHL, the farm teams and whatnot?
Actually, no. So just the Avalanche. Okay. But the way that the I call it program, the position works is we're there for either team. So we're there for both the home team and the visiting team.
Okay.
And ironically enough, every time I've dressed, it's always been for the visiting team.
Oh.
I've not had a chance to. I've been to morning skate, I've been to practices, but for a game, I've never actually dressed on behalf of the Avs. It's always been for the visiting team.
So have you ever I gotta ask, have you ever in that position? Have you ever just been like, I'm going to let this one squeak by? You don't have to answer that.
If you're a fan of the Avs, I'm going to just let that one roll in.
I get that. That's probably one of the most asked questions that I get. Your competitive spirit just takes over. At the end of the day, it's easy and kind of fun to say, oh yeah, of course I would. But at the end of the day, your desire to win and your desire to do the best is kind of trumps all.
Well, and especially being in a league like that. The league like that.
The show.
The show. Absolutely. You're going to go play. Yeah. You're going to go out and shell out. Literally. That's just.
It's every kid's dream, right? Absolutely. when we were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old growing up, everyone's dream was to play in the NHL, and everyone's path is a little bit different. And, I'm not exactly there, sort of. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when you get to put on that jersey of an NHL team, it is an extremely cool experience.
Honor.
It is a realization to some degree of your childhood dream. And it's obviously not exactly the way that I would have drawn up, 20, 25 years ago, but still a really cool way to do it nonetheless.
You never know what those opportunities can turn into,
It's really fun. And we were talking before, I love hockey. It's a really cool, exciting thing that's just kind of another chapter in my hockey life and my hockey career. So,
and even at that, do they let you keep the jerseys?
So they don't. Some of the teams are a little bit cooler than others, and some of the teams is I'd say culture kind of is different than others. Some teams are unbelievably accommodating and amazing. The first time I was able to dress, it was for the New Jersey Devils, which actually, ironically, was my favorite team growing up. Because when I grew up in Minnesota, I kind of grew up between, the North Stars had already left, but the Wild weren't really a team just yet. And as a goalie, Marty Brodeur was my childhood idol. And so there's a cool picture I have of me, I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years old, on Santa's lap, and I'm opening up a New Jersey Devil jersey with Marty Brodeur's number on it. And then years later to be able to put on, that jersey for the first time was kind of a cool, surreal experience.
Yeah, that's special.
So what other teams have you dressed for?
Let's see, the Devils, the Islanders, the Penguins, and the LA Kings.
So you've met Grice?
I didn't get to meet him, but he was in the locker room.
Right.
Many times when we dress, it's typically during a game because somebody has gotten injured. And so it's kind of this, I don't want to say weird experience, but it's kind of this unique experience where like we're there getting dressed, but they're also in between periods or they're, going out for warmups or they're kind of doing their own thing.
Getting their
like they're in their routine. So it's, and you don't want to impose.
And we know goalies have their routines.
Yes.
Well, and I had the pleasure of playing with you in Breck. And I mean, I'm not going to bring up the score or anything. I mean, it was fun. You're really an outstanding goalie, to be honest. It was phenomenal to watch. I mean, it's a tough league.
It is, and that situation, especially Breckenridge is the highest altitude rink in Colorado or in the U.S. Coming from Utah, it's a little bit different. Guys get a little more exhausted. It's kind of I don't want to say a different game, but it's definitely a different feel from what a lot of the guys out there played. And for a majority of the folks out there, it's the highest level that they'll have played in a while or will get to play, which is fun, but brings its own set of it's not just beer league, no check,
right?
15-minute periods, get out there
everywhere. It was. I was seeing helicopters with knees and just. Stick. Matt,
It's a little like the show Shoresy.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, for
it
sure.
really kind of is. And I don't blame refs, but they got to figure that out.
Yeah, it gets physical really quickly.
Yeah, and especially when they let it get out of hand.
Yeah.
Because then it's just.
So I bring up this next question based on a video I saw on Instagram, and you probably know what I'm talking about. And I can't remember what team it was for, but the EBUG was running on the highway.
Ottawa.
Yeah, okay. Yep. He was running on the highway. There's people driving, and he had his hockey gear running on the highway trying to get up to the arena. So the question is so like where are you when the potential of playing is? Because like obviously that guy was
that situation, that video, obviously, we've got our own EBUG Instagram DM thread that all the guys in the league will chat back and forth. And when that popped up, I mean, it was nonstop notifications for hours and hours that night. Every team does it just a little uniquely different. I don't want to say some teams do it better than others, but everyone kind of just operates in a slightly different manner from how, we're kind of treated, whether it's more game operations staff, player staff, where we sit in the arena. So like in Denver, for example,
when you need to get ready,
what we need to wear, where do we, like, there's every team, every organization has a slightly different protocol. Okay. I still don't really know what the situation was there. And the dude was just sprinting. Awesome, I don't know how someone didn't pick him
just
up.
Getting his warm up in.
Maybe it was traffic or something. I don't know.
And I don't know the rink situation really in Ottawa, and it was snowing, and it was everything that could have gone wrong was going wrong for that poor kid. But for us, we get there about 90 minutes, almost 2 hours before the game.
So you're in the arena every single game.
Yep. So we're in the arena. We technically sit in an actual seat, but it is, row 1, seat 1, right there on the glass. And it's kind of hard to explain, but it's right by not where the Zamboni comes out, but there's another, they call it a VOM, kind of opposite where the Zamboni comes out. And where the Ice Girls and kind of the Bernie, the mascot,
easy
comes
access
out
to a tunnel to the locker room,
and the Avs locker room. The entrance is literally right 10 feet from where I'm sitting. Okay. And so we're basically right there, and we're waiting. And if one of the goalies, either the Avs goalie or whoever the visiting team's is goalie, gets injured, we get a phone call, we get a text, and I'm in the Avs locker room in about 10 seconds. I'm in the visiting team's locker room in 15, 20 seconds. Our equipment basically stays kind of right outside the Avs door, depending upon where we're going. But it, like I said, at minimum, where we get to watch the game from is
can't be that, man.
Unbelievable. I mean, it is right on the glass. And so even the games I don't get to go in or don't get to get dressed, it's an insanely fun, cool experience.
Yeah. Well, to piggyback off of that, there's videos out there that are phenomenal watching, for example, the Blackhawks. I'm a huge Hawks fan. Yeah. And when they pull out their EBUG and he goes out there and wins, had maybe I don't know, 11, 12 saves, and then they win. And a lot of opportunity. I mean, they don't take it lightly.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a lot of cool stories out there. Like when it happens and it goes well, it's cool
phenomenal.
story.
Well, you love to hear that.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a couple of them, few of them actually.
It doesn't happen a ton. As far as I can tell, I think there's only really been like 3 times where the goalie's gotten in and played like meaningful minutes and like had to make like meaningful saves. A couple times it'll be, they'll throw them out there with like 30 seconds to go in kind of a lopsided game. But yeah, the Scott Foster incident in Chicago, David Ayers for Carolina, although the game was in Toronto.
Isn't one of them a ZAM driver that
David Ayers? Yeah, so he was the ZAM driver for the Marlies, which is the Maple Leafs AHL affiliate.
Okay.
And he was one of their EBUGs, and both Carolina goalies got injured, and he got a chance to not only get dressed but also then get in the game and played I think a period and a half or something crazy like that.
Which, I mean, that's got to be nerves. Yeah. That's got to be nerves.
I can only imagine.
The first time that it happened to me, honestly, I mean, yes, you're dressing and you're potentially going to enter an NHL game, and that's scary in and of itself. But it's so different because unlike our game, in Breckenridge or any other hockey game, I know going to the rink what my routine is going to be. I'm going to get there, 90 minutes early. I'm going to do my stretching. I get to go through warm-ups. Here it's like you're getting hustled to kind of get dressed and get up to speed as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. Well, and a million things are going through your head.
You don't have the support that you would have in the NHL. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like you are tying your skates as fast as you can. You're trying to get your socks on as quickly as you can.
You're not doing your routine that you're used to.
And people, the PR people are asking you questions. If you do get in, how do you spell your name? What's your background? You're having to fill out paperwork and contract stuff that the team can send to the league if you do get in. And there's, a million things going on, and they want you ready like ASAP. And that's, to me, the craziest kind of most chaotic part of the job.
And that's cool, though, because, I mean, all things considered, even in Breck, it's like you're not going to get the support that you're going to usually get as an NHL team, right? And the way you played was honestly phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, I was like thoroughly taken back, on that. And I was like, move him to Utah. Like, what are we doing? Like, get him out to PC, dude. Like,
Hey, I moved to Colorado to be a skier. There's plenty of good skiing up here.
Well, not anymore. I don't know what's going on right now. But
67 degrees yesterday.
I don't even know why I'm in a vest.
Yeah, 55 rainy today.
Yeah. Time to go swimming. I'm over this crap. It's going to snow in July.
So in all the games that you've had, have you had, just any notable names, just fire one at you, Sid the Kid or anything like that stands out when you've played?
Not necessarily any of those. A couple of the Avs practices that I've been able to go, because that's probably when we get used the most.
Okay.
Practices, morning skates.
That was my next question. Yeah. So you practiced with the team.
Not on a necessarily consistent basis, but there's been plenty of times we'll get a phone call, especially, like I said, kind of coming out of post-COVID stuff, when they kind of really dialed in the program and really kind of learned to lean on us when goalies were sick or injured or needed a day off. Post-COVID, the salary cap is a huge part of why the EBUG position exists in the NHL. Because the salary cap is on a daily basis, and you can't necessarily pull a third goalie in that's under contract for just a practice. Yeah. So they'll use us in that instance. There was an instance, I mean, all the guys are great, and the banter in the locker room is no different than any of us have ever experienced, on a slightly different level. Yeah. But they really are,
just regular dudes.
Hockey culture is hockey culture at the NHL level, all the way down to like the Pee Wee level and everywhere in between. Which is the cool thing, that, you kind of go in there and you're obviously very nervous, very intimidated. You don't really know what to expect. And the guys could not have been nicer. And not only that, but then you also get to experience, firsthand a guy like Nathan McKinnon. He takes his job to the next level. The way he prepares, his equipment, his body, the way he stretches, the way he goes out early and stays on late to work on faceoffs or, one-timers or whatever kind of skill set he's working on that day, to see that up close is phenomenal.
Oh, I bet.
And it's, the margin for error at that level is non-existent.
Yeah.
As a goalie, if I am off an angle, a fraction of an inch, Cale Makar is putting it over my shoulder 100 times out of 100. Fortunately in lower levels, probably isn't going to happen. I can get away with it every now and again. But those guys, it's not that they shoot harder. It's not necessarily that they skate faster, although, the Avs are a very, very fast team. Yeah. But their margin for error, the way they, hit the net, the way they hit their spot, their hockey IQ of, the way that they pass the puck, even with the guys not there, they can't even see where they're passing it. And boom, and it ends up, tape to tape pass, backdoor tap in goal. It's unbelievable to witness up close and personal.
Yeah. Well, and again, though, goalies are a different breed. I mean, goofy, smartest players on the ice, especially with the angles. I mean, that's a real thing. I mean, they're goofy.
No offense.
He knows. He's heard it all before.
The stereotypes exist for a reason. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But no, I mean, in general, like it's just amazing and incredible to see how, even just when we were in Breck, you were taking out, you're coming out of the net, out of the crease to take away the angle.
Yep.
You got to have support. And then you were getting back quick.
The level of trust that those guys build with their defensemen, and that's why a lot of times you'll see if a goalie gets traded or a defenseman gets traded, it takes a couple of games, a couple of practices to get comfortable with that. Because as a goalie, to your point, I'm only really coming out that aggressively, or I'm only kind of making a play based on the fact that I know and I'm comfortable that my defenseman can protect the backdoor guy, or he's going to take the pass on a 2-on-1, or whatever the situation may be. If that level of comfort isn't there, it's very hard to kind of be a good goalie, quite frankly.
Well, and you don't really hear communication out of goalies much, which you should as the youth, and whoever's watching. You're the eyes of everything seeing the ice. And I did hear him a few times, like weak side, or whatever you were saying. But whatever you were saying, you could tell that there was something that needed to be done. And you were head on a swivel and knowing what needed to happen.
The best example I was ever given kind of as a kid or kind of growing up from goalie coaches and whatnot is you are in essence the quarterback out there. Maybe not in the offensive zone, maybe not, in the neutral zone, but when the puck is in the defensive zone, you are the only one that can more or less see every guy on the ice at all times. And if there's a guy, weak side, backdoor, if your defenseman's coming around to pick up the puck, you can tell him, strong side, or forehand, backhand, or stop, or you got time, or whatever the situation may be. They can't hear it from the bench necessarily. They can't necessarily hear it from their D partner, their forward, their center, whoever else is out there. You are the eyes and ears, not just selfishly for myself as the goalie, but for your D partner, you can help your right D communicate to your left D or to the forwards, or whatever the situation may be.
And that's huge.
I've never actually thought about that.
No, that's huge. Yeah, I mean, you need to tell Rafe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, just communication's key.
My little nephew is.
I love it.
He's making his way up the rankings here in the youth hockey world. So
goalies, everyone's coached a little bit differently, and everyone kind of has their own comfort level, but that communication, at least for me, has always been huge. To be able to kind of tell, whatever the situation is, and it helps everyone on the ice, all 5 guys on the ice 100% of the time, even if it's not, telling the guy on a 2-on-1, hey, I got the shooter, you got backdoor, whatever. It helps your D pass it to the forwards to help break it out. Your forwards know that they're getting pressured and they're about to get smoked. They don't have time to fumble the puck at the blue line. They have to chip it out right away. So there's a million different scenarios throughout the entirety of the game that, from the goalie's perspective, you can see and coach and talk to and communicate to the guys. And that's the kind of stuff that you see at the NHL level that is flawless.
Yeah.
The way that those guys communicate, talk to each other, pass the puck, break it out, defend, whatever it may be, is always on point 100% of the time.
And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a name or anything. It's just like once you build the camaraderie of a team, you're going to know, I'd know your voice all day if I was on the ice. Yeah. Like if I'm,
I'd probably be the loudest one out there.
I mean, just like you're going to know, like, that's who is who and where. And like, I mean, it goes a long way. Communication like that in general just goes a long way.
Go down the rabbit hole. And obviously it's fun to hear on YouTube, like the chirping and the talking and whatever. But when you go down the rabbit hole of these mic'd up guys, right? Whether it's in the playoffs or whatever it is so much fun to hear everything that they're talking about for even just an entire shift, right? A 30-second shift. Yeah. They're talking nearly the entire time.
I love that.
It's so cool.
And to like kind of bounce back to like to the, you know, the conversations that you hear in the locker room and whatnot. In the short time we've been on this podcast, I've learned that the hockey culture is just incredible. The players, you know, at any level, you know, I mean, we just had Theo Fleury here, and he was probably one of the coolest dudes I've ever met in my life. And so I want to hear your take on like why you think that it is that way with hockey players, because it's like, you know, we got Theo Fleury here, and there's multiple occasions. Like my brother was in Vegas, and he said that he was parked right next to Jack Eichel's car, you know, and he was just walking out willy nilly, no bodyguards or nothing. And I feel like in other sports, it's like you can't get that close to like an NBA player, right? You know, so there's obviously like a big difference in how players feel, professional sports players feel in different sports. So why do you think that is with hockey?
I think a lot of it is, I mean, selfishly, I do believe it's the ultimate team game. I mean, it has six distinctly unique positions on the ice, right? Goalie, 2 forwards, 2 wings in the center. The way that kind of development works in not only the United States, but also in Canada and in Sweden and Finland and Russia, that you are with these, let's say, kids when you're a kid, and then you're with your teammates, whether it be long bus rides, in the locker room, like the camaraderie is always there. And I think that's to some degree what separates hockey from other sports. Like if you look at, you know, youth basketball, youth baseball, youth soccer, you know, you name it, that kind of setup isn't always there. Yeah. There's not always a locker room in youth basketball.
Long bus football. Rides.
Protect your goalie. Yeah. You know, that's like a big thing.
Like there's just the uniquenesses that hockey has over other sports, for right or for wrong, is in essence the same thing at the NHL level, right? You're still getting to the rink early. You're still in the locker room with the guys. You're still on the bus and the plane with the guys. And, you know, whether you're 10 years old or 30 years old, you know, you're kind of doing the same thing. And I think because a lot of other sports, you don't really get that until kind of the high school or college level. And then it kind of becomes a little bit more kind of a self-serving interest of like, oh, I'm trying to make it to the pros. I'm trying to make it to the minor leagues, whatever. It's not really like that in hockey. I don't know exactly why, but I was having a conversation about it one time, actually at practice one day with the Avs, and whether you grew up in Russia or Finland or Canada and the US, all of our experiences growing up at 13 years old were more or less kind of the same.
Very similar, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, and like you say, it starts at a young age where you have to literally, like, you take care of your team. You're gone all the time. I was in Canada a lot. I mean, I was all over. And piggybacking off what you said, you guys are a family. I mean, I'm still family to this day with so many kids that are all over the world. And it's just one of those things where it's like, you got to take care of each other. If somebody gets in a scrum and you're not in it, then what are you doing? We're going to go help you. And like that builds that camaraderie. Like, thanks for having my back. And like,
that goes back to some of the youth stuff, right? Like you talked about protecting your goalie. When you're, 10 years old, just starting out playing hockey, you're taught to protect your goalie or stick up for your teammates. It doesn't matter if you're the starting goalie or if you're, the fourth line center or whatever position you are always taught to kind of be there for your buddies. And the egos never really get there. I mean, there's some guys, we've all come across, but on the whole, I don't think the egos exist in hockey the way that they do in other sports for kind of all of those reasons. And it's why I love the game. I mean, there is
Absolutely.
no.
Sounds like it starts at a very young age.
It does.
And it just rolls into adulthood, and
it's ingrained in you at a very young level, and it just continues through, the youth level, the high school level, the college level, the professional level. And because everybody else kind of has that shared experience, that's why you don't get kind of these, bravado professional NHLers that, have kind of their own brand or only in it for themselves.
And I mean, even stemming off of that, like it's one of those where like, you know, with the ego thing, right? Like you're going to have your better players. You're going to have your weaker players, but you're going to pick up the weaker players to be better. I mean, it goes full circle. It just genuinely does.
I've witnessed that firsthand. Like the first couple of practices I was able to go out for, like obviously I don't want to say a scrub, but like in their eyes, I should just be like a scrub out there. At no point ever in my time have they ever made me feel diminished. They've always, you know, hey, nice save, or thanks for coming out. Like they've always been positive and kind of appreciative of what it is I bring to the table, even though they know that, you know, I'm not their regular guy and I'm not necessarily their total teammate. They are treating me no differently than anyone else that's in the locker room.
Love it.
For sure.
Well, we've got a few minutes left here. So your take on the Utah Hockey Club. Have you seen them play in Colorado?
Yep. I've seen them play in Colorado. I had a chance to go to the game last night. I'm bummed I didn't. I'm going to have to come back.
That was a one to go to.
Yeah.
That was a fun one.
I love what they've built we talked about it earlier, in a very short period of time. And the move is so unique and kind of the situation is so unique. I don't know if we'll ever see it again. But Utah is like ripe for this situation. Obviously, you know, I selfishly wish kind of things would have gone a little bit differently and been a little bit smoother and kind of built up a brand a little bit more. And it's going to get ironed out. But the team is really good. I think the arena downtown, everything is kind of coming together. Utah is a hockey state. I've seen it from my time living in Colorado with all the youth teams that will come. You know, what you guys have with the Grizzlies, I think is fantastic. And it's just going to continue to build and build and build as the brand gets more established, as people get more sucked into becoming a hardcore fan that weren't hockey fans even 6 months ago.
It's impressive already. I mean, we're getting blown up in and of itself with people like, oh, I've got a dude out of, what is it, Homer, Alaska, that hit me up last night on Facebook and was just like, oh, Utah Hockey Club, that's crazy, blah, blah, blah.
It's cool to watch. It's cool to experience it. And
and we needed this for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of growing the game. We've seen it, you know, in kind of non-traditional markets like Vegas or Nashville or even Dallas.
Yeah, right.
You know, Utah, I wouldn't call it a non-traditional market, but needed a team desperately. And I think you're seeing kind of why a team needed to be here now. And they'll just continue to get better, and the fan base will continue to grow and grow and grow.
I mean, that they pack the house. I mean, and it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun to watch.
Just don't be better than the Avs, please.
One day.
You heard it here from the Colorado Avalanche EBUG.
Maybe one day he'll be able to take a shot from
there we go.
Maybe off the dome from Keller or something. No.
Hey, well, thanks for coming out.
Appreciate having me, boys. It's honestly fun. It's always good chatting.
That was great.
Always good to see you.
Yeah,
thanks,
that
boys.
was cool to hear, you know, some stories that probably not a lot of people get to hear every day. So appreciate you coming on.
Pleasure playing with you. That was
a ton of fun. Maybe we'll do it again soon.
I hope so. I really do.
This has been the Puck Drop Podcast. We'll see you next time.